Don't let your champion training go off the rails. All aboard! Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and we are going to be making all kinds of train jokes today because we are talking about champion training. Specifically, I have been asked by several folks in the comments, how do you manage champion training as an early game account? I've done some videos on champion training for the points before. I've done a couple of them. Maybe I'll link to them here. And if I forget, I forget. We've got, there's differences in how I handle it on my main account and how I handle it on my free-to-play. Some of that is from simply not having billions upon billions of rares sitting around or not really caring about the rares, in many cases not caring about the epics too much anymore on that account. That account is so far advanced where epics often get viewed as chickens, and that changes the mechanics of how you handle champion training significantly. Now, on this account, on the other hand, we're not there. I don't have billions of chickens. I don't have tons of rares ready to go. In fact, I don't have a lot of room in many cases. So I need to handle champion training just a little bit differently. So we're going to talk about how you can handle champion training, make the most out of champion training, both if you're doing it for an event, and honestly, if you're just kind of doing some champion training because you got a great champion and you want to get him up as fast as possible. So let's start talking about early game champion training. So first of all, one of the most important things that you can do for champion training is this thing right up here. See this XP boost? They are given out like candy by Raid. In fact, as you can see here on my free-to-play account, I have 9 weeks of XP boosts left, to the point where I don't bother saving them because I have them live so much of the time. Now, some people like to save these things, only like to have them active occasionally. I find that having activated them all the time, constantly, because I am constantly playing, I am doing everything that gets me these XP boosts, both with CVC, as well as my daily missions, as well as things in Doom Tower, as well as things in Curse City, I think has a couple of these things. There's all kinds of ways to get these XP boosts, and if they all add up, well, I mean, I'm at 9 weeks ahead of where I am right now. I have never not had this live on this account. Now, if you're not playing that level of hardcore, and you don't have these things active all the time, then whenever you get one of these rewards from like your daily quests, your weekly quests, or whatever else, it'll go into your inbox, just like some of this stuff goes into the inbox here. Ooh, silver, not much, but better than nothing. And it will, I've got some energy right here from the code recently. That's good. Like this sort of stuff. So they can be there. And so if I'm going to be doing some champion training, you bet I'm going to be grabbing that. Why? Because the best place to do champion training as an early game account, and probably even as a little bit of a mid game account, because I guess this account is probably more of a mid game account now than it is an early game account, you're going to be moving into campaign a lot. So this XP boost 100% means that your energy is 2 times as effective at earning experience as it might be otherwise. So that is going to make sure that if you're running Minotaur, you're going to be leveling up. If you're running campaign, you're going to be leveling up. And that makes campaign worthwhile running for this training. So it is the most important thing to make sure you have going on your account. And if you don't have it, you won't have this little XP symbol up here right by your ID right up there. So make sure you have that. And if you don't have a lot of that stuff banked up, then make sure you start saving some of it up here so that when you go into champion training mode, you activate it for a day or 2 or 3. And given that some of these training events are several days long, using a 3-day long one for a 3-day training event seems to be pretty fitting, honestly. Now, one of the keys that we are going to find here is that mystery shards are going to be your friend for early game champion training. Why? Because you need fodder for your champions that you actually want to train. Now, these are champions you're going to be pulling, and you don't really care too much about what you're pulling. Obviously, you might like it if you get a good rare out of it. For the most part, you're probably not really caring. And it's nice to get 2-star and 3-star champions out of this compared to 1-star, because they don't need to be made into a 2-star to be useful. But other than that, you really don't care too much. So if I want to get a bunch more of fodder for my training, well, I will, honestly, it's a nice easy trick here. It's easy to do on PC. I'll hit the summon here and I'll hit escape, summon, escape, summon, escape, summon, escape. Boom. I just summoned 40 champions. I have no idea what I got. Honestly, I don't really care what I got because in this particular case, I'm just summoning to summon quickly. So that skips the animation, makes it pretty quick. You can also kind of click through the animation, or if you really want to watch it, you can watch the animation if you really care. But honestly, we don't. We just need a bunch of chickens to be able to do some champion training. So next up, up is into the tavern. There's two options for this. If you're in a position like me where I've got 100 plus brews here, and I don't like to be too far under 100. As you can see, I'm running a little low on my force brews right here, but otherwise I've got 170 here. I'm doing okay on my brews. I can use these brews without an issue. That means that I'm going to start making these 1 stars into 2 stars here in the tavern. So if I'm going to say, I've got a bunch of green and a bunch of blue brews, so I'm not going to use my reds. So I'll take a blue champion here, go down, feed 3 other 1 stars and a brew, and that's level 10. They're maxed out. Do the same thing here one more time. Boom, maxed out. Now that I'm done with that, I'll just start feeding the appropriate color into its shelf. That's not a big deal. We'll do a green 1 or 2 here because I've got some green potions to use. Got a few more blue champions, so we'll do that. And basically, yeah, I'm going to make a bunch of common 2-star chickens from this stuff. Do one more. We'll just grab you. There we go. Now, if I wanted to do it through campaign, which is certainly another option as well, I can instead go into 12-3. You've got your campaign farmer here, and you've got whoever you're going to run here. We'll just make one more set of 3 stars here because we can. 1, 2, 3 seems about right. And I'm going to turn off super raids, and I'm going to run this 3 times. So I'll do it right here. If you're running low on these multi-battles, you just do it 3 times. That's not a big deal. I've got it selling pretty much everything that I get from campaign now, because honestly there's no gear from campaign that I can get that would be of any use at all, except for if we're talking about probably Nightmare 7, and that's not great either. So 3 of these runs with the 100% XP is going to get me a 10 champion. Now, you do not want to do this with 2x on or super raids on, because if you do this with super raids, you're basically wasting an entire 8 energy on a run that doesn't do anything. So that's why you need to turn super raids off, or you need to run 1 super raid, go back, turn it off, and then run another one without super raids. But we run this here. As you can see, this is not particularly long because I've got a pretty decent campaign farmer here. Alice does a great job with this. 9-10 seconds later, boom, I've got 3 more 10 stars. We're going to go into here, pull 20 more of these just so that I've got some chickens. So now I will take these champions here and take all my 1 stars and make them 2 stars. All right, so now that I've got a bunch of 1 stars that are 2 stars effectively, so I've got a bunch of commons right here, so you can see I have my common 2 stars down here as well, and I've got my uncommons here as well. I will now take 3 champions, and in general, I'll take 1 of each affinity just to kind of even out my brew usage, but since I actually have a few too many of the green and blue, I'll probably take it a little unevenly, so I will take these, these 2 greens and this blue, and I'll run him through, and this time I'm going to use super raids because these actually do exactly 10 normal runs to get from level 1 to level 20. So I'm going to run them through 5 times. Now here's the thing, I don't actually have to set this to 5. As long as I don't check this multi-battle continues even when all champions hit max level, it will stop when everybody hits max level. The one reason I like to manually do this is if for some reason I have grabbed a 3-star and a 2-star champion, well, if it levels up the 2 stars to max, it will then keep on going until the 3-star gets to max, and that's annoying and a waste of energy on 2 of these champions. But as a result, I run 5 of these runs, and I will have 3 additional ready to 3-star chickens effectively. That is 80 energy. I've got 91 energy, so I have plenty of energy. So I'm going to run that through campaign quickly. And again, we'll hit that multi-battle there, and we'll be done. And I'll be back to you in a second when I'm done with this. Okay, so 5 runs Raider, and hey, I've got 3 more level 20s ready to make 3 stars. I've gotten a couple of mystery shards. I have gotten a decent chunk of silver because I've been selling all this stuff as well. I'm surprised it actually doesn't tell me how much silver I've earned. That's a little annoying, but it is what it is. One of the things you can actually do with campaign is we're going to give you dungeon diver points, for example. So if you are doing a dungeon diver event while you are doing your champion training, running campaign is going to give you dungeon diver points. It's actually the way that I've found dungeon divers to be not too hard for me to deal with on my free to play, because I will do champion training and dungeon diving. So running a bunch of campaign all at the same time on my free to play account means that dungeon divers has only required a few gems for me to finish the very, very end of it, and not out of my main where I often have to spend maybe, another 10 refills worth of energy diving in just to get to a recent dungeon divers points for some of these fusions. So you can double dip, triple dip in some cases on some of this stuff. It's also, again, going to earn you a ton of silver because you are selling almost all of this gear, and this gear, especially part of the reason you run 12-3 over other floors is 12-3 gives you shields, and for some reason shields sell for more than just about anything else. So technically I think 12-6 is slightly better energy, but it ends up rounding off to be almost the exact same, as in you don't get like an extra full run of it out of there when you're running somebody all the way from 1 star to 3 stars. So it doesn't make a lot of sense there. And boots sell for about half the price of shields. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the result is basically this is the best combination of silver plus XP rewards at 12-3 brutal. Now you can do 12-3 nightmare, which is better efficiency for overall. In fact, I believe at that point in time, it's only 4 runs that you would need to get these champions built up instead of 5, but it is much, much more difficult to be able to farm with a single champion nightmare campaign. On top of that, you do not get any new mystery shards. So if you are somebody that needs to use mystery shards regularly, it does not make a lot of sense for you to be farming campaign outside of brutal, honestly. Looking to start a brand new account in 2025 with Raid? Use my link down below, set up a new account with a brand new email, and you can start off with Elenarl, a wonderful legendary that can do all kinds of fun stuff for you. And at level 15, you'll also get a Tagore, a wonderful support reviver who has been a big carry for me on my accounts. You also use the code Demon Slayer to get Tholan as well, and to get Lemonisi at the moment, because Lemonisi is currently the free login champion. Start yourself off with 3 great legendaries and a wonderful epic, and enjoy starting a brand new raid journey in 2025. Okay, so now we go to the upgrade rank. Now I like to, when I'm working on champions, I like to do this from the bottom up. So I will flip the sort over. So now I'm looking at the 2 stars. And of course, if I have any 1 stars ready to go, I do. And now I'll just grab and start throwing in chickens into these champions. Nice and easy. And we'll get a bunch of 2-star champions from that. Now, once we start getting from the 1-star chickens into the actual 2 stars, well, sometimes I'll use some of these guys because these guys pop up as free rewards for farming 12-3 as well. Sometimes you'll get 3-star champions out of it as well too. So those are extra chickens. It's nice when you get those. You don't require them, but it's nice to get a bunch of these dudes. And since I know I don't have a lot of these brews, I'm going to actually feed those champions first before I start feeding some of the other ones. So now all I've got is I've got a couple of 3-star chickens that are ready to go. And I've got a bunch of 3-star champions ready to be leveled up. So if I filter out and only show the 3 stars, these are all my chickens that have not been leveled up beyond having 1 star. I've got a chance to make a bunch of extra chickens. Now keep in mind you're going to need 3 of these chickens for every 1 of these other champions you're going to level up. That is going to be, if I'm basically going to need 12 of these 3-star champions to turn into 3 4-star chickens. So that's just kind of the math, the way the math works on that. Now I've got 9 of these guys already for 3 that I've already got. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take these people, because there's a champion training tournament or event going on right now and I want points, I am going to throw a single brew into each one of these champions. Why am I going to do that? Well, single brew has no real cost on my end. Brews are kind of cheap. So a single brew, not a big deal, not a lot of opportunity cost there for you. And that gets me 9 levels. If I were to throw a second brew in here, that's only going to get me another 5 levels. So it's not a huge amount. You could certainly maybe argue that 2 brews is better than 1, but because I don't want to burn through all of my brews, I'm just going to use 1 for the time being, because you're getting some reward out of this, but not a lot. We'll go over and take a look at how many points that's going to get you as well in a champion training event. So if we look here at the champion training event, why I'm throwing those brews in here. So you only get 1 point per level for level 1, only 1 point per level for level 2. So you're going to get, 9 points for getting someone to level 1 to level 10, 19 points for level, 1 to level 20 here. And now you start to get more points as you go up in the floors. So that single brew, I threw in 1 champion for almost no cost, gave me 18 points. That's almost the same amount as I got for training this entire 2-star chicken up. That gave me 18 points. And then when I feed them in there, I will start giving them brews, because what I will do at the 4-star is I will give them 6 brews, which gives them an additional 24 more levels. That's going to give me 70-ish points, 72, I think. And then when they become 5-star, I'm going to throw 8 brews in them, which gets them to level 28, which is 27 more levels times 6. We're talking about 170 points. And then if I have a 6-star, oftentimes I'll throw 10 brews into my 6 stars and get myself, that's 29 times 8. That's a bunch of points. So that is almost 300 points. So nice, easy to gain extra extra points. As you'll see here, that's matching or exceeding the amount of points I would get for just the rank upgrade in and of itself. So you're effectively doubling how many points you're getting for ranking up some of these champions. So now that I've got those chickens ready to go, I will take this one here. I will use one of these guys with brews in here, grab them. Apparently I did not do this properly, so I don't quite have enough of these guys rolled up. So there we go. 3 more 6-star champions, and these are going to be chickens. There are 2 options from here. I can either just take these champions here and throw them in, not 8 brews, but 6 brews. And the reason I like 6 brews is you'll see this gets to 25 with very little overflow right here. You could certainly argue that maybe the 5th one isn't there, so you can only throw 5 in there if you're a little short. You could even go down to 4, and that gets you to 21. I happen to like level 6, but depending on where you are as far as brews are concerned, maybe you go down to 4. You're talking about a total of 4 levels, so you're talking about 8 to 12 points. You know, not a huge amount of points, but it can make a difference in some cases. It really is going to depend on where you are with how your brews are and how many brews you want to use versus how you want to save. I never like getting below about 100 brews because it is nice to, in an emergency, be able to just take brews and throw into a champion. And the barrels I generally save for champions that I had just had to bring up to level 6, and I only use my barrels on 6-star champions that I want to get to 60 instantly. And honestly, that's mostly for champions that I know I'm not going to be using a lot of masteries on, generally on my main, or champions that they're more important for me to get them to 6-star 60 than it is to get the masteries at the moment I'm building them for some reason. Maybe I'm on some time limited content like it's Faction Wars, and if I beat Faction Wars with this particular champion right now, I can get Lydia, otherwise I'm going to have to wait a week. Well, you know what? That's what barrels are for. So that's what I would do with the brews, but there's another option as well. Instead of throwing brews in them, if I'm going to make them into 5-star chickens, what I can now do is I can go in here and run these 3 champions here, and I will run them through campaign, and it takes, I want to say it's somewhere between 28 and 32 runs to be able to get them fully grown from 4 stars to 5-star. I don't like throwing brews in them if I'm going to do this, because the brews can sometimes mean that I run an extra run that I'm not expecting to run. I don't know the math once I throw brews in them as well. So generally it is either brews or is sending them with chickens. It's really going to depend if I'm going to use these as a chickens immediately or if I'm going to run them through campaign. For now, since I'm not sure, I'm not going to throw brews in them. I'm not going to run through campaign, but we'll talk as if I've done either one of those as we continue on. So here is where you can certainly make a decision on how you want to progress with your account as well. If I look at my account right now, these are all the 4-star champions that I have at level 40 that are possibly ready to go to level 5. Now, for example, I am probably going to bring Krorgon up to level 5 at some point in time for Faction Wars because he is, at the moment, the best healer I have in Lizardman, and he has been helping keeping my team alive so that I can keep on pushing forward. And it's possible with a 5-star Krorgon, I can beat the boss, which means I can beat Faction Wars with him. So it's worth me bringing him to 5 stars. On the other hand, I know some of these champions like Renegade, I don't need her right now. Eventually I will, but since I don't need her right now, she's not been a huge priority. Courtier, probably not super important. He's probably a chicken at this point in time. I had him because he was a rare that I built that had AoEs at the time, and I was able to use him for Faction Wars until I built a better team for Faction Wars in my Bannerlords, and he recently only fell out after getting Quintus, for example, and that's fine. So he's got some gear on him. I used him for a while in Faction Wars. I can now choose to make him a 5-star chicken if I want to because he is viable as a chicken at this point in time, and honestly, since I don't have a lot else invested in him, I'm probably not going to do much else with him, so maybe it's time to feed him. He's not a faction, he's not a champion that I would use in a fusion or anything like that, so that would be a 5-star chicken option. Obviously, if I have chickens here that are pure chickens, then I can actually make them as chickens. Madame Cirrus could be interesting, could be useful. I haven't found a need for her at the moment because Fabian does a lot of what she does without the debuffs. She is very sheep eminent if I'm not careful. She would be useful for me in Arena still, possibly in 3v3, but I'm not quite at a situation where I feel I'm comfortable building her, partially because I don't have the books for her as well. So I'm not looking necessarily at booking and building her at the moment either. So Tashada was very good, but I don't know if I need her at 5 stars or not, because now that I have Syl as a 6-star, Tashada's not necessarily going to help me too much anymore, but she was worth bringing up to 40, and she's probably also useful to stash just in case I need a reviver in a stage, because she wasn't bad, but I'm certainly not going to build her beyond this 40 at the moment. So going through your champions, looking at the ones you have, seeing who you're going to build may make you make a decision whether or not you're going to take the champions that you have right now. As I said, I could go and take him, and let's get rid of the Master Vault at this point in time. And here are my chickens that I've got available. Well, once I put brews in these chickens, I can then make Qui-Gon a 5-star, and that would actually be a pretty happy thing to do. Or maybe I need to look and take a look at who my 5-stars are, and we'll even include the Master Vault for this as well. Champions that I have at level 50, ready to be 6-star. Well, now I may have some interesting options. Thylesia would bring a lot of good utility to my account, and she's unfortunately not very usable as a 5-star on my account because she's just not very survivable without that extra 6-star, and I think the extra speed that she would get from a banner as well would make her much more useful, but she does her job so far as a 5-star. Rurella, been absolutely amazing, probably would be a good 6-star to make at some point in time. Siendra's actually been really good for me as an okay damage dealer in elves, probably worth bringing to 6-stars at some point in time. Skaramis is probably a very good 6-star for Hydra because I've been using his provoke regularly in Hydra, so being able to get him faster. He's also already booked, so it makes some sense to get him eventually to a 6-star, so he's a possible 6-star for me here. Looking at champions that aren't necessarily quite ready for this stuff, but Zargala is really close. She's been a great damage dealer and probably does need to be a 6-star for her to be not only more survivable, but to bring enough smack for me to get through some of the stages I need to get through and doing enough damage to do them. That said, I did actually finish Orcs, now that I recall, so maybe I don't need to prioritize Zargala, but certainly a good one. Allure is eventually going to be a need for me because she's going to be very helpful for the Dark Fae, which is going to be the next rotation, but she doesn't have to be my 6-star now. She just probably needs to be a 6-star before the next Doom Tower rotation, which means in the next 3 weeks or so. So looking at champions that you're going to build will give you an idea of, are you going to make a bunch of 5-star chickens eventually, or even 4-star chickens to level up 5-star champions that you're going to use, or are you looking to focus on a 6-star champion? Ishiyama, been a very good champion so far. I am still struggling in Shadowkin, so maybe it's time to make him a 6-star because he's already bringing a good amount of smack, and he will basically get an additional 50% extra damage just from getting 50% more base stats by going from 5-star to 6-star. Plus, I can then finish his masteries, might even be able to put him in gear that would make him a viable arena nuker in some situations. Would be, a fun champion to have ready to 6-star. So I've got all kinds of interesting opportunities and options. Fellhound, if I'm really worried about the speed of my campaign farming, plus Fellhound can actually be a very good Faction Wars champion as well because he does a decent amount of damage and has a lot of utility in his kit. Maybe a Fellhound to 60 might be time for this particular one. That would actually save me, I know it sounds like it might not be much, 3 seconds per run, but if we're talking about making a few hundred runs, 3 seconds times 100, that's a decent amount of time as far as time saving from having a Fellhound versus my Alice. I haven't really found it's that big of a deal, so I'm not too worried about it, but it's certainly an option. If I was worried about getting a Faction Wars done for the Sylvan Watchers, Tree Shield Knot would have been a good 6-star as well. So a lot of it towards the end becomes identifying who are you going to be 6-starring, or are you going to be focused on making more 5-stars, or maybe you're just going to go through a champion training and make a ton of 4-star chickens. There's nothing wrong with making a ton of 4-star chickens. The only real problem you're going to have with making 4-star chickens for some of these training events here is that 4-star chickens kind of are where the points are okay-ish. Obviously, you get some points here for throwing some brews in these folks. Once you start getting to 5-star and 6-star champions, so making a 6-star, that's 300 points there, plus obviously we're bringing them up in level, so there could be a bunch of level bonuses there, plus you're then going to level them up a bit as well. A 6-star champion is a good 600 to 900 points just by themselves, which can move the needle quite a bit on some of these things, get you some decent rewards. Whereas when you're making 3-stars and 4-stars, you're just going to be making a ton of 3-stars and 4-stars. But that said, there is nothing wrong with prepping a bunch of 3-star and 4-star chickens, knowing that you don't have the champions you really want to invest in yet, but you'd like to have the chickens available when you're ready. That is how I manage champion training, specifically the events and the tournaments. But even if I'm not doing something, one of the last tips I do want to give you guys here is when I'm doing my dailies here, whenever I get the daily quest here, that is, I've got beat a campaign boss 3 times, but if I have the beat a campaign stage 7 times, I will always choose to make some 2-star champions into level 20 just to prep them for chickens for later. So that gives me somebody ready to make a 3-star champion with. It's spending 3 extra runs, but it means I never have to worry about if I have them offset or onset or whatever else. I always know that they're ready to go, and I always know that I've got, them most efficiently, and it just means that it's that much easier to kick into the higher points. I won't make them 3-stars yet. I will wait for a training tournament, but at least I'll have a couple of them ready, and it's kind of nice to be able to go through and say, oh, this champion training tournament survived. And look at this. I've got a bunch of 1 stars I can make into instant 2 stars. I've got a bunch of 2 stars I can make into instant 3 stars. And now I can start from there, and I might have 500 to 1,000 points already before I've even dove in and started the champion training. Hopefully this was actually helpful for you guys. I appreciate you guys asking questions about things you want to learn about in Raid. Gives me things that I can teach you guys. Gives me things that I can go on that you might be curious about. I'm certainly looking to make more of these videos that are interesting, comprehensive how-to guides, and I appreciate your feedback on them because you guys seem to be liking when I'm doing some of this general teaching, and I enjoy it. I love imparting knowledge to you guys. I find it fun to show you cool ways to help you have fun in Raid Shadow Legends. You know, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you're ever wondering why am I making all these 6-star champions, well, I've got this video right up here or right after this credits or whatever else. In fact, it will be after the credits, where you can see some of the myths of Raid Shadow Legends of why it is important to make champions 6 stars. So go check that video out. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate all the support. You guys are absolutely amazing. One of the best communities in Raid and in gaming. Much love. Have a wonderful day. And until the next video, I am Bront.